advising the BBC from a legal perspective. What advice would you give?
Hang tough.
We'll leave it on that note. Mark Stevens, thank you very much. Media lawyer, Mark Stevens. Thank
terrible.
Talking there about
you're looking worried, aren't you? Because you're fake news.
Even bigger sums, because it's just over 2 weeks till the Chancellor delivers her budget. One of the big challenges that Rachel Reeves is facing is how to tackle the national debt.
The national debt.
Is taking a look at
BBC.
this for us this morning.
Let's have a
morning
look.
to you, Emma. Good morning. Today we're going to try and explain why national debt is mounting up and why it does have implications for all of us.
Let's have a look at this rubbish.
National debt. It's the amount of money the UK has borrowed to cover spending on things like public services. And it generally spends more than it raises in tax.
Really?
So to cover that gap,
about the last 30
it borrows
years.
money. So what is our current national debt?
There we go.
At the moment, big figure. It's just under £2.9 trillion. But to help us put this into context, economists tend to express national debt as a percentage of national income, or GDP, the value of all the goods and services the UK produces each year. So currently our national debt, it's up at 95.3% of our national income. It's at levels not seen for some 60 years. And borrowing hit a 5-year high in September, with government spending over £20 billion more than tax income that month. Now, Rachel Reeves wants to bring down the amount that the government is borrowing. So she's got to raise money from elsewhere. One of the major reasons that she is now widely expected to raise taxes in the budget later this month. Now, doing so would mean breaking a key manifesto promise not to increase taxes on working people. But Chancellor Rachel Reeves told Matt Chorley's Urgent Questions podcast from 5 Live that going back on that promise is necessary for the long term.
It would, of course, be possible to stick with the manifesto commitments, but that would require things like deep cuts in capital spending. And the reason why our productivity and our growth has been so poor these last few years is because governments have always taken the easy option to cut investment in rail and road projects, in energy projects, in digital infrastructure. And as a result, we've never managed to get our productivity back to where it was before.
Now, if the Chancellor didn't have enough of a headache already, the government's official forecaster landed another blow last week when they downgraded predictions for the UK's productivity, saying the economy isn't producing as much as hoped, which generally means less taxes coming in, leaving her with an even greater shortfall. The Institute for Fiscal Studies estimate the Chancellor now needs to find an extra £21 billion to balance the books in the budget. So, how have we got into this situation? I've been taking a look.
There we go.
If you go back to the early 2000s, our national debt was much lower than it is now. But since then, there's been a series of economic shocks.
Starting from the financial crisis, then of course we had the pandemic leading to the energy shock, and since then we've had high inflation as well. That's all added to the debt burden and why the government is in such a tricky situation.
But while national debt has been rising, our economy hasn't been growing very fast.
Britain has just been borrowing basically every year now for decades. We've been borrowing more than other countries have, which has pushed our debt higher. And growth has slowed down, which is a big problem because when growth is slower, the economy's not growing as quickly, it becomes harder to manage that debt and keep it under control.
Rachel Reeves has made the point that £1 in every 10 of government spending is being used to service the cost of borrowing, of government debt.
Caused by your Labour Party.
What she wants to do is change that story.
Oh dear.
When Rachel Reeves became Chancellor, she set out self-imposed rules for borrowing.
Oh, she's so good.
The government will not borrow to pay for day-to-day public spending, things like salaries of teachers or police and doctors. That must be covered by the money raised in our taxes. Rachel Reeves decided the government will only borrow to pay for longer-term investments that bring in a return over many years. And that our national debt must be falling as a proportion of the size of our economy by the end of the decade.
Because of these self-imposed rules, if she doesn't keep to them, that could mean that fewer investors want to buy the government debt. So that's why Rachel Reeves looks likely to have to increase taxes, because she wants to reassure those investors that the UK is a safe bet to keep putting money into.
Oh, God.
So who do we owe all this money to?
Chinese.
Government debt is often seen as a safe asset. It's very desirable for lots of financial institutions and pension funds, for example. to hold. So it can actually serve a very useful economic purpose. But it does cause problems when that debt becomes really expensive.
I've had enough of this.
Service, because that
boring.
leads into the other things we'd like governments to be doing. And it means that there's less available to spend on the public services,
the public services, to pay all our teachers, to pay for Ofcoms, pay for Ofwat.
Considerations at this budget.
Oh my God.
Whether it's spending less or whether it's taxing more, that will involve some painful decisions in the short term, but the hope is that it pays off eventually.
It'll pays off eventually. Yep, that's what's going to happen.
Spending and borrowing is always a balancing act for each Chancellor. Rachel Reeves is about to reveal her balancing act in the budget. We'll find out how it will affect us all.
Not going to affect me.
Now, opposition parties, of course, argue these are all political choices for the Chancellor, and they all have different visions for how they'd handle the economy if in power.
I have enough of this.
It is just now little over 2 weeks to go to the budget. Yesterday, we saw Rachel Reeves once again taking that rather unusual step for a Chancellor of getting out of the airwaves before the budget to set the scene of what's to come. Sarah and John, I hope that's all clear.
Oh, it's all clear. No, it's
There's
not.
a lot of numbers